goodness, hello to all the fellow night owls out there. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast. This is the Midnight Memo, and in true Midnight Memo fashion, it is 1:17 a.m. in the morning.
God almighty.
We are just starting to record.
I want to also preface this with we had the full intention of not doing that.
Truly. In all transparency, we tried to start recording at like 7:30. Listen, I mean, we had good intentions.
As we always do. But you know what? God has other plans for us.
This was definitely the universe trying to humble us.
They were like, if you're going to call it the Midnight Memo, you can't be fake and not record this at ungodly hours. And you know what? That's fair.
Yeah, they're keeping us authentic. Thank you so much for joining us on our first episode. We are so excited to be here together. And the crowd goes wild. We should probably introduce ourselves. That's Kristen.
And that's Claire.
And we have successfully crossed over into the hours of delusion. This is a podcast about what topics keep you up at night or what thoughts run through your mind when you should be sleeping. And this week, that thought was Groundhog's Day, or Groundhog Day?
Groundhog Day, singular.
A true national holiday, if you will.
Tell us more about Groundhog Day. No S.
I wish I could, Kristen, but to be quite honest, this topic had never crossed my mind. Not once.
Until you wanted to start this podcast. And you were
until, yes, we wanted to start the podcast, and lo and behold, the first week of February celebrates Groundhog's Day.
And that...
Or Groundhog.
Groundhog,
Day.
no S. No S. Let's emphasize this.
I know, for shame, I am an American. I should know these things. But ever since then, we planted a seed in my brain, and I have not been able to stop
how it happens. Okay, you know, when I hear Groundhog Day, and this is totally inaccurate to the holiday itself, and I'm completely aware of this, but I cannot shake this feeling. When I hear Groundhog Day, I think of Pocahontas. I know it is completely unrelated to it, and I have no idea, like, no other preface or reasoning why, but when I picture a groundhog, I see a 2D animated character, and it just fits with the theme of Pocahontas, even though it really shouldn't, but it does in my brain. Wasn't there a groundhog in Bambi? Am I totally mixing up my Disneys? Wasn't there?
Bambi had a skunk.
No, but doesn't it like literally the intro? The groundhog opens. This is gonna bug me now.
I remember Thumper, right? Was that the right?
Yeah! Thumper. Oh, bro. I fucked with Thumper. I loved him. He was a ride or die. You know, if you're gonna have a friend, you need a Thumper in your life. I love Thumper.
We do love that.
We do love that.
Okay, so Groundhog Day. My question, I just want to know, like, why it's a holiday. What is the significance? The general understanding for me is that sometime in the spring, a groundhog just pops out of the ground. Someone's watching it, waiting very intently, and then is like, yes, we now know the next however many weeks of summer or
spring. It's we focusing on the spring.
Oh, you right. That's how seasons work. It's fine. But who was wandering around one day and saw a groundhog and was like, this little rodent is gonna determine when spring is coming?
Yeah, kinda.
But how did that become a thing? Because it can't just be like a one-time thing.
From what I looked up on literally history.com, it's derived from Candlemas.
Is that a place?
No, it's a holiday.
Oh, ignore me. What is Candlemas?
It's an ancient holiday, kind of rooted in Christianity, based off of the equinox, and then like how that somehow aligned with the winter solstice. So like right around this time is supposedly the midway point.
Interesting.
But I guess cycling back a little bit, what Groundhog Day actually is if the groundhog comes out and he sees his shadow, that means that we will have a long winter. So winter will go on for 6 more weeks. And then if he doesn't see his shadow, spring is coming sooner. But to me, that feels like very inverse, because if he sees his shadow, that means it's sunny, right?
Right.
But that means that we'd get more winter.
Interesting.
So like, it just feels so backwards.
Yeah.
Why did we decide that? Like, ooh, the sun's out? We still gonna have winter.
Yeah, I feel like that's also the extension of why I'm so confused on how they determined. So, because it had to be a multi-year tradition before they were like, oh, as we recorded it last year, he saw a shadow and then it was still cold.
Yeah.
What were the order of events
Yeah,
that
yeah.
led them to say, I saw something pop out of the ground. I don't know what it was, but I'm going to follow it for many years.
So where that came from is Groundhog Day comes from the Pennsylvanian Dutch when they eventually came to the United States. And they brought it over from Europe. And that's derived eventually from Candlemas. Like if we go down the history line all the way, Candlemas is like way out yonder. That's the original point of origin. Besides going into why Candlemas is like a thing. That's a whole nother tangent in and of itself. But then, so from Candlemas, there were these not farmers. Farmers is the wrong word for it. Like what's like hunters, but like for rodents and like
And gatherers. Never mind.
taking it back to like what world history, the foundation of men. No, like oh my gosh, like the people who like hunt.
Yeah, I would say they're hunters.
Sure, let's go with that. Yeah, someone will correct me at some point and.
Please email us with a correction.
Like, but at the same time, don't. Like, it's 1:30. Like, let's not expect my brain to be firing on all pistons. Besides the
That's
point.
true. We are seeing you in your most authentic state.
Oh gosh, that's a terrifying thought. Oh, that deeply shook me to my core. Trying to push through that moment. But yeah, so the people who dealt with the skins of like other small animal rodents back in Europe, for some reason Candlemas relates to them, and they decided to use those animals for their distinguishing factor of whether or not those animals were hibernating. So that was like their tradition. And then when they brought it all over to the US, they were like, well, we don't have those badgers and other animals here. And they literally were like, groundhog. Because it's the closest thing.
All right. I mean, I feel like that makes a little bit more sense. I don't really know what a groundhog looks like, to be honest. All I picture is a meerkat.
That's so not even close, bro.
What do you
That's not even
mean?
the same, like, what is it? Ecosystem?
I don't know.
Bro, meerkats
Do they look
are
like beavers?
Yeah, at least closer.
All
At
right.
least they're both found in North America.
Listen, I am horrible with geography.
Have you ever seen a meerkat? Especially not with the qualification of not in a zoo.
Yeah, in The Lion King.
Actually, you've seen meerkat when you've Googled MGK. Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
Meerkat is the first thing to pop up. Fun fact in case anyone didn't know that.
The resemblance is uncanny.
What? Also, I saw an interview of him and Megan Fox, and she literally is like, yeah, he looks just like a meerkat. And I'm like, you do you. If he literally looks like a meerkat, and you are adamantly making that known, doesn't that mean that, like, you think meerkats are, I guess, not that they're not cute, but, like, you're like, you know what I like my man to look like? A meerkat. You know?
But I feel like Timon could get some ladies.
No hate on Megan Fox also. Like, God, I don't even want to, like, open that can of worms. Just, like...
Yeah, but at the same time, you have a lot of people whose first crushes were cartoon characters. Like, if you were asked, oh, hey, who was your first cartoon crush? Or who was your first crush? A lot of people would say, like, oh, you know, Teenage Simba.
So
you know what I'm saying?
true.
So I can see
Danny
it.
Phantom. Teenage Simba, like, I've heard... I know that's a common up there one, you know?
Yeah.
I think Danny Phantom's always a classic.
Okay, so thanks to Professor Kristen over here, we know a little bit about the history of Groundhog Day.
A very rough history. I'm so sorry. No one quote me. All information found on history.com.
Yes, we will link history.com if you want to research any further. But now bringing Groundhog Day into the modern era, now we have a lot of technology at our disposal.
Right.
So how are we now still celebrating Groundhog Day? Because I do feel like there has to be some government appointed official to look at a groundhog, or how do they select the groundhog? Oh my God, how do they select the groundhog? There are so many. How are they like, this is the one this year?
Don't they, like, I don't know, select, like, a city?
Do they have a vetting process?
A betting process?
Like a vetting process. Like, you know, when you get interviewed and you're like, why would you be good for this job?
How are you going to interview a groundhog?
But that's what I'm
How do you
saying. There's so many. How do they know which one to pick?
Actually, if you think about it, it's totally irrelevant to the individual groundhog.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with the groundhog. It has everything to do with shadows.
Yeah. So, like, what if one groundhog sees its shadow and the other one doesn't? If they have two, right? Because the probability is basically wherever the sun is and whenever they come out of their hole, which way they turn first, if they even turn or if they go back into their hole. I feel like it's very up to, not interpretation, but it's up to chance. Like, how are we supposed to?
Yeah. You know, see, this is just like, what's the thing you guys do here? that I had to learn about when I moved here?
Oh, you mean flip-flops?
They are this is a hill I will die on. They're called slippers.
Flops.
They are called slippers. They literally don't even make a flip-flop. Like,
they do. They
how
make
do
the
you get that
flip-flop sound.
No, they make a pop. At that point, you should go that pop. Like they literally don't even make the flip-flop sound, and I will die on this hill. Anyways, that's a side tangent. Daylight savings. It's like daylight savings. You know, like, I feel like I've gone like so far on a tangent that now I've resumed my position on like my train of thought, and you were like so far gone.
I was very lost, but I was like, you know what? Keep going.
Just keep going. I'm gonna catch up. For like, you're talking about the it's based off a chance, it's the shadow, like, it's irrelevant to the individual groundhog, and like, why do we even need to use it now because of our technology? Same thing for daylight savings. It was meant for the farmers, and it just messes with the animals more.
Oh yeah, it does.
There's
it
no need for it nowadays.
Yeah, the farm animals, like the cows, get their sleeping schedules mixed up. I don't even know why. And especially because there are farms, say in California, right? And then farms in the Midwest, but we both respect daylight savings time. However, Arizona, they're like, no,
Arizona
we don't want to do it.
Arizona and Hawaii are the only states in the United States that do not abide. There might be another one, but I know definitely Hawaii and I know definitely Arizona are the only ones that don't abide by it.
It's so weird. I don't get it.
And you know
I'm
what?
Confused.
For my entire life, this never impacted me. Like, never needed to abide by it. And you guys are like, no, this exists. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. I have lived my life perfectly fine without doing this. What I'm hearing is the forefathers of this country were just like, time's a construct, and let me show you how I can fuck it up. That's
so
what
American,
I'm getting from
though.
that. You know, yeah, that's what I'm getting from the gist of this conversation. Groundhog Day, daylight savings, you know, they're just like, let me show you time is quite truly a construct, and I can mold time to my image.
You're like, and now we're here. All of the failures have solidified. There's no turning back now. Okay, so did we ever answer the question of who watches the meerkat? Who waits for the groundhog?
You cycled fully back to meerkat.
Listen, Lion King on the brain.
Y'all watch day of actual Groundhog Day. Claire's gonna text me Happy Meerkat Day. I'm betting on it now. If she remembers that it's even Groundhog Day.
Honestly, after this episode, I feel like I'm never going to forget Groundhog Day.
It'll have a special place in your heart due to this podcast. But okay, yeah, who watches? Dude, I don't know. Isn't there like some places they have like a mayor and like...
Yeah, I think so.
Like, isn't that like a thing? That's why they make it a thing? Or even if it's still a thing in like certain like cities, mayor, county things.
I think so. I feel like there are counties or places in America that still do a live broadcast of Groundhog Day. But then there are multiple places that do this,
we go back to...
Yeah, we go back to...
Unless, is it based off of just that spot? Because you think about it, you got weather in different places. Like, what if New York has a short winter, but then we'll have snowpocalypse in Spokane? You know, it could literally be it. So is it predicting just for that
area,
county, city? Yeah, because you know, weather's unpredictable. You can't have the same weather all across America.
That's true. So how far does the groundhog's influence reach?
Exactly. How much reliability does a singular groundhog have? What's his sphere of influence given his prediction?
Who knows? Not I.
Wow. We're really honestly, we're diving way deeper into this than I thought, and I'm pretty proud of it.
I told you, when I said that this topic kept me up, I was not lying. Look at the list of notes I have.
Holy Jesus.
Because I was like, listen, I understand National Dog Day. I understand National Cat. All the animals that you have as pets. I've never met someone who has a pet groundhog. And then I was like, well, if you compare it to the holidays like National Dog Day, you're actually celebrating your dog, whereas we're not celebrating the groundhog. We're celebrating the results that the groundhog brings.
This is true. They are just a means to an end. We aren't actually celebrating said groundhog.
Maybe they feel taken advantage of.
This is so true. Oh my God, so our holiday... Again, in true forefather fit...
Yes.
You know, I had a alliteration going on in my brain, and then we fumbled the ball. It's fine.
Forefather
fashion. That was forefather fashion. God. It's not about them. It's just, we even made a holiday to dictate what the groundhog can do for us and not what we can do for the groundhog.
Yeah. JFK of the groundhogs,
Crazy,
ladies and gents.
Crazy.
Do you think that they give the groundhogs caffeine so that they don't sleep through
Bro, I don't know.
Groundhog's
This picture
Day?
of the groundhog I'm looking at.
What if they sleep
what?
through Groundhog's Day? Does that happen? Because they're hibernating, right? It's like,
Well, yeah, they're probably hibernating.
do they hibernate and then like we literally just wait for them to wake up for spring to see if they're gonna go back into hibernation? Is that the whole thing? Do we give them caffeine to make sure that they wake up? Because like if it's,
I don't think we would ever give them caffeine. I think we'd just be dicks about it and just like knock on the little groundhog hole and be like, "Excuse me, you gotta wake up. You got a job to do. You got a job to do. It's your day."
that makes more sense. I was thinking like because it's on a specific day, we can't rely on
I don't
them
think-
to always wake up on the same day every single year. So there should be a schedule, right?
Yeah, right.
But that makes sense. Your thing sounds
Right.
better than caffeinating the groundhogs.
I mean, yo, we give weed to dogs. Like, it's not completely unheard of, but considering the amount of effort it took to get to this point of having weed for dogs, I really doubt they're gonna stretch themselves farther to try to caffeinate groundhogs. That just seems like a lot of excess energy for one day a year.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of hibernation,
Yes.
did you know that like animals that go into hibernation, they don't just sleep for 3 months straight. They actually like do other things while they're hibernating.
You're lying.
I'm not, and I was shocked. Like I thought the polar bears would be sleeping 3 months straight, nothing else. But no, it doesn't, like logically it doesn't make sense because they still need food to survive for 3 months.
But isn't that the whole point?
I don't know, but my world was shattered.
I don't believe you. We need to go back to elementary school
Right?
science because that does not add up to me. That just feels wrong.
I was very affected by that fact.
Frick, that's gonna keep me up now. I'm gonna have to dive into that tonight. Thank you,
Yes.
Claire, for giving
You're
me.
welcome.
The point of this podcast is to unload the thoughts so I can sleep. And now you have loaded upon me this large burden of understanding hibernation for animals, and now I will not be able to sleep. Thank you for that. Vote this episode if you are also personally victimized by Claire's information on hibernation. Because I have.
I'm glad we could answer some questions about Groundhog's Day and then open some more up about hibernation. I think it would be fun to kind of wrap up the episode with a couple fun facts about groundhogs.
Ooh, Groundhog specific or Groundhog Day?
Groundhog Day, groundhogs. There's this article that I'm staring at right now. So apparently, the groundhog can actually predict the end of winter. So you know how we were kind of going back and forth about like, so it says the groundhog can really predict the end of winter, just not with his shadow. Because groundhogs hibernate every winter, the fact that he'd bother to leave his hideaway is a natural sign for spring to come.
So it's more about like whether or not he chooses to leave.
Yeah.
But then what's the point of the shadow? Because if that means that if he came out, despite whether or not he sees his shadow, like the presence of the shadow is irrelevant.
Yeah, I don't really know.
So the groundhog had all the tools, and then humans were like, let me interpret what this means, and then added some ambiguity to it.
The humans wanted to feel included, like they actually
course.
contributed something. Like I feel like this is a class project, right? And you're in a group of people, and there's that one person who did no work, but they're like put their name on it anyway, kind of a situation.
No.
I find that to be so funny. Okay, we just
Audacity.
added in the shadows. We're like, oh yes, it's the shadows, not just the fact that they're innate. What is it? It's actions.
Like their
I
time
guess.
clock.
Yeah,
Like
their
the
internal
internal
clock.
Yeah.
How they were created. They're like, nah.
Literal evolution here. Also, like, okay, if we decided to add a spin on it about the shadows, right? We're like, oh, we're gonna interpret it using shadows now. Don't we see that we're consistently wrong each time?
We're like, let me add
You know what I
something
mean?
and be the completely
Wouldn't we always
unwarranted
be wrong
confidence.
then in that sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unwarranted confidence that is continuously brought to be wrong.
Yes.
Like,
it's fine. It's whatever.
whatever.
Let us know if you are one who still appreciates the national holiday of Groundhog Day, or if you don't, or if you celebrate another holiday that's similar, like Candlemas.
Candlemas, yeah.
Yeah, let us know.
If you would like to give us another random holiday to dive into and dissect.
Yeah, give us another topic that won't let me sleep at night.
And then when I finally reach a conclusion, Claire will give me a new question to contemplate and keep me up, as she just did. Thank you again for that.
Continuous cycle of thoughts that will keep you up. I'm just here to provide those thoughts because they're also keeping me up. And I don't want to be up all alone, so I'll just drag you down with me. So what have we learned?
Claire's bad at geography.
Groundhogs are not the same as meerkats, and Kristen is a great history teacher. This was our first podcast, and I'm so proud of us.
I know.
Again, that's Kristen. I'm Claire. If you like the podcast today, make sure to follow and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And check out the link in our podcast description to show your support. You can find us on TikTok or Instagram at the Midnight Memo. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts that have been keeping you up at night and you want to share. We would love it.
You can also reach us by emailing us at themidnightmemo@gmail.com.
Make sure you're following us so you can tune in next Tuesday when our next episode drops.
Yeah. Hope you guys can get some sleep.
Bye.
Bye.